Hello and welcome back to the second episode of Ruby Research. Today's episode is all about how chemistry can power mechanical reactions. Researchers at the University of Pittsburgh Swanson School of Engineering have discovered a process for turning a two-dimensional thin sheet of metal into a three-dimensional gear that can provide mechanical work or motion using a catalytic reaction. So a little bit of terminology here. A catalyst is a substance that can help a chemical reaction happen without being used up in that reaction. So here's how this works. The catalyst is placed on certain points on a very thin sheet of metal. And when a reactant or a chemical that will undergo the reaction is then exposed to that catalyst, a reaction occurs that causes those points on the metal to pop up, forming a three-dimensional shape, in this case a gear, additionally moving the liquid in a way that creates a circulation spinning the gear that was just created. So what's the big picture here? Why does any of this research matter? Well, I think this research is really cool for a couple of reasons. The first one being that there is no electricity or oxygen needed for this reaction to occur. Now, in most things like our internal combustion engines here on Earth that power your cars, you need a fuel, you need an ignition, you need oxygen, and then you need a pretty complex engine in order to get mechanical work out of that process. With this, all you need is a thin sheet of metal with a catalyst put in specific spots and your reactant or your chemical that's going to react with that catalyst. No oxygen is needed. Now, this is super big for exploring things like space or foreign planets or places where humans can't be to control the machinery that we're going to be using. So this process could be used on a small scale in robots or other exploration devices that we send off into the universe to see things that we necessarily can't be there to see ourselves. So that's the first way I could see this having an impact on us as a species. Secondly, these gears can be set up in a way that leads to a sort of if-then process or a decision-making process. So if they put the catalysts in specific spots, we can create a really complex system of gears that creates a more advanced reaction as those gears interact with one another. The interaction with this first gear can lead to a process with a second gear and then trigger a third gear, creating kind of a more complex system that someday in the future could maybe power a decision-making robot or some sort of exploration device that could make decisions on the fly simply by adding reactant to different places and different gears on that thin sheet of metal.
So in conclusion, I think this is going to have a big impact in terms of our exploration of space and the universe around us. As always, my sources are cited below in the description. And that wraps things up for this week. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Ruby Research. We will see you next week.